going on, guys? So I am just in a state where I am open to the interpretation of the Second Amendment. Now, I have been a Second Amendment advocate for hang on. Okay, not now. I don't care about inappropriate chat. So I'm open and up for an interpretation of the Second Amendment. Let's just say if you guys can present a decent enough argument, and if I'm able to actually see your side of the argument, maybe I might be open to it. So I want to know what's the best argument that anybody can put out for now while I'm just waiting. If I'll tell you my belief system and see where it goes from there. So, the number one thing about the Second Amendment that I firmly 100% believe is that it protects more people. Okay. Now, it protects more people than it harms because there's a lot of different types of protection out there that would entail. For example, if you're being just protected in the middle of the night as a woman and as a person who doesn't know exactly what's going on around her and her surroundings, it's perfect. You keep it on you, you flash it every single time a creepy guy comes around, you feel good about yourself. But if you don't have it, then obviously you've got to resort to other measures such as pepper spray, taser, etc. So that's one of my belief systems is that it's a personal protection for yourself. As for other people, as for the next part about it, is that it's a personal protection against the government. All right. So if the government has any ounce of overextending power that they feel that the people are feeling that they cross the line. Most of the time, the line is crossed when they start taking away weapons. So, if the line is being crossed, then most of the time, the people are supposed to come in and be able to just take a look and see if there's a way to be able to stop them from doing it. That's another reason for the Second Amendment. The third reason is protection against foreign entities. They said in World War II that if during World War II there was a hang on one second. I gotta relax a little bit more. Let's chill out for a minute. Let's get this thing just bumping. During World War II, there was a general. I can't remember which general it is, but he was pretty much afraid of exactly how to be able to go into the United States. And he would say that there's a gun behind every blade of grass because there is a gun behind every blade of grass. And so my personal belief system is that it protects far more than it harms. Now, are there going to be crazies out there? Absolutely, crazies. But I want to know your guys' interpretation. What's the best way to be able to go about this? Tell me in the chat. Tell me exactly what you believe. I just want to know. I want to know exactly how you guys perceive the Second Amendment. I'll just keep going with my stuff until I actually get a couple of questions. As for, let's just say what happened inside of Florida. There's a lot of people going out there stating that we need to take away weapons, AR rifles, etc. And they're saying stricter gun laws, etc. Well, the people who know more about it are the people who actually have a gun, have a weapon. They actually have shot them a couple of times. They actually go to the shooting range. They actually own one. It's inside their house. They put it in a protective safe, they learned exactly what it is. And so the experts on it are usually the ones who have it, not the ones who don't. And this is something that I find very fascinating, that the people who don't have weapons are the ones who are commenting on taking them away, because I feel that they are, in lack of a better term, pussified. Um, as you can see, it would be like trying to take on it's like an idiot takes on a professional philosopher. You know, the philosopher sits there and knows what he's talking about, while the idiot just sits there and just goes, "I know better than you." Oh, prove your point. Now go to the internet and read it. It's one of the lamest excuses of all time. So it's lame in the terms that they don't know what they're talking about most of the time. They don't know where to go, what articles. They just listen to another person, whether it be on the news, whether it be their best friend, whether it be their personal friends, or just people in general, just their surrounding inner circles. They believe those people to be absolutely correct. They are never once questioning whether or not they are wrong. So, Second Amendment, what does it do for us as the individual people? And why is it that there is surrounding people that want to keep it? Well, there are people who want to keep it because they feel more protected. The inner, let's say, United States, they're the ones that have the most weapons out there. The inner United States. When it comes to cities, there's still weapons, but there's not as many weapons. I don't know why that is, because I think the inner cities are actually more dangerous than the outer regions, or just the boons of the United States. I feel that the boons of the United States is absolutely atrocious area that, I don't know, should you have weapons out there or shouldn't you? I believe you should, because you might run into wolves, you might run into different things. Um, we've had this debate and this argument forever. This debate and this argument has been lasting forever. I mean, we've had Trump on the issue, we've had Obama on the issue, we've had Clinton on the issue, we've had Bush on the issue. Ever since I've been born, the issue has always been about weapons, whether we should have them. I've always felt that back in the day, people have always wanted to lie about weapons because it's an inanimate object to me. To me, it's an inanimate object. It's an object that is just there. A sword's an inanimate object. A knife is an inanimate object. A gun is an inanimate object. A rock is an inanimate object. A stick is an inanimate object. And a golf club, a bat, they're all the inanimate objects. But what's fascinating is how people will put it. All right? The inanimate object is just that, an object. But the source of the violence is the inanimate object, which makes it very fascinating that the argument is that of the inanimate object and not the violence itself or the individual itself. So when you sit there and you listen to them, guns kill, so therefore we need to take away guns. Well, that's an obvious statement. It's so obvious, it's pathetic. So yeah, of course guns kill. That's their purpose, is to kill. All right? But there's also other reasons. Protection. All right? You think police officers just use tasers whenever they're confronted with a person? No, it's meant to protect. It's meant to fear. It's meant to bring fear to the eyes of the person that you are actually going to confront. The fear is the protection. When you bring fear of their life at hand, then they will actually go about and say, okay, maybe I want to live more than I want to die. I mean, that's the obvious fear. And so, of course, guns kill, knives kill, a baseball bat can kill. All right. It's not just used for sports. It's not just used for cutting. You can cut individuals. All right. The just because you sit there and you make these statements doesn't make the inanimate object any more dangerous than another inanimate object. So, where is the goal here? Are we trying to stop gun violence, or are we trying to stop violence itself? Are we trying to actually stop the crime rate, or are we actually trying to stop the criminality of it? I mean, should we focus more on the gun or the individual behind the gun? That's the questions that you have to ask yourself, because we never ask. We never say the statement. I never heard the statement at all. Knives kill, therefore we need to do everything we can to stop knife violence. Like, okay. When you put it into that perspective, all of a sudden, if you actually take the numbers, you actually go, oh, knives kill more people than guns do. Who knew? People like to cut themselves. Who knew? People actually like to stab each other. They sit there and they'll grab the quickest inanimate object that they can right at that moment. They're not going for the gun to try and kill somebody. They go, oh shit, I better take this knife and stab this mo. Who knew? But we got to ask ourselves, is the inanimate object the reason for the killing? And that's, to me, it's so dumb. It's not the inanimate object, it's the situation at hand, it's the person at hand, and how that person handles the situation at hand. To me, that's obvious. But to everyone else, it's the inanimate object. So let's just say, for example, the school shooting. All right. We've got two situations, two separate situations. One of them could have been prevented. In almost every scenario, it could have been prevented just if people would have done their job. The Florida shooting, they had almost 30 times plus that the police, FBI, and people have gone over to this kid's house and could evaluate him. And they just kept kicking the can down the road. Oh, somebody else will deal with this. Somebody else will deal with this. And then he actually went out and shot up an entire school. All right. Now, after he did that, he dropped his weapons and went out for a walk. And his claim was that he couldn't handle the violence. A kid who wanted to be a mass shooter his entire life all of a sudden gets away with it. Nobody comes up and kills him before he gets done. He's not even done with his ammunition. He just drops everything and walks away. And he's caught. He's sentenced. It's either life in prison or the death sentence. Who knows which one it is. But he stopped because he couldn't handle the violence. And so now we got to ask ourselves, was it the inanimate object? Or were there other scenarios in the mix? Let's take a look at all the other scenarios other than the inanimate object, okay? Let's take a look at everything else that could have prevented this one scenario. All right, number one, the kid was unstable and already threatened several people with a gun. Several times. He'd pull out his pistol and point it at somebody. Cops were called. Nothing was done. Several times. All right? Several. This is not just once. Several. 3+ times.
Okay? He threatened people. He killed squirrels in his backyard all the time for kicks and giggles. All right? Now, I used to be a kid, so I don't excuse that type of behavior, but I used to be a kid and I had some type of cryptic stuff back in the day when I was a kid. And then I felt bad, you know? I mean, rattlesnakes, I would sit there and pin them with my dart gun because it's just like they're dangerous creatures. Whenever a snake was inside the yard, I'd sit there and be like, oh, I'm the first. And I would be the first to take off its head. And I felt like I was protecting people, you know, it's just like, yeah, yeah. So, but there's other ways, like I was young, but there was other ways to do it. Anyways, there's that aspect. And then the fact that he went online and people actually told them several accounts where he could have been raided, all his weapons taken away because he was unstable, but instead nobody wanted to. They just kept kicking the can. So, was that the inanimate object's fault or was it the fault of the FBI, police officers, and everybody who was involved that kept kicking the can down the road? Was it the inanimate object's fault? No, it wasn't. Okay? The inanimate object he just attained. That's it. All right? Next, let's take a look at his psych evaluation and exactly what he was going through. The kid was absolutely just a wreck, you know? He got made fun of all the time. Who did he target when he actually shot up the place? The people who were making fun of him. He actually avoided a lot of people. Like he could have shot up more people, but instead he avoided a lot of people. And he just went for the people that that the kid said, yeah, he was making fun of them. And so he shot the people who were the ones that hurt that were bullying him. So, do we sit there and talk about an anti-bully scenario where we actually want to be able to help kids out with anti-bullying? All right, that could have possibly prevented it, maybe not. Who knows? But that had nothing to do with the inanimate object. That had everything to do with the person and the people around him that could have done more. And then let's take a look at gun-free zones. Gun-free zones are out there. 97% of all mass shootings are done in gun-free zones. Isn't that an interesting statistic? Now, I have to take a look at the statistic, but I believe that that statistic is correct, and I have to take a look at the numbers to make sure that they are absolutely correct. But if it is correct, which I believe it is, that's interesting that all of a sudden you you telling all the good people not to take guns into an area to protect themselves, and a bad person comes in, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Where's the logic in that? Why is it that all of a sudden a gun-free zone is safer? Does it make you feel safer? Does it make you feel like you won't be shot by some crazy person? Is it the illusion of feeling safer? Is it the fact that when you go into this area, that all of a sudden you just feel, oh, it's a gun free zone. I guess I'm good. I don't know. To me, I just look at gun free zones as, man, I, if I was actually a sadistic motherfucker, it'd be the first place I go. Nobody's going to shoot me back. So I don't feel safe in a gun free zone. I don't ever feel safe in a gun free zone. I respect the laws, but I don't ever feel safe in a gun free zone. I will respect the laws, but I don't think that they make sense, not even in the tiniest bit. So, if gun-free if gun-free zones actually stop criminals, then where are the statistics that show that they actually stopped criminals? Where they actually stated when they looked at it, oh, this is gun-free zone. Maybe I should just drop my weapons and go and turn around. Like, I don't get it. Please, somebody out there tell me. No, like, please tell me. Nobody get, I want to know. Like, does the guy actually sit there and stop, turn around and walk out? I want to know, please. Oh, I don't know. Let's. I want to know about this thing. What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, was that an object? Not an object. Not the causing the violence. People who were acts. Well,
Yeah,
it stops the violence.
exactly.
Stops the violence.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. Oh yeah, of course. Appreciate it, babe. Thank you. So I was in philosophy years ago, and there was the saying of power, okay? Like power, right? Fear is a form of power, and the person who maintains the most fear has the most power. And therefore, how do you make a group of people powerful? Well, you arm them. All right? So, if you create fear in a side of another person's heart, you have gained power. All right? So, for example, let's just say the United States, okay? When it when it comes to Islam and United States and all sorts of different people, like where do you go? Sorry, I'm scatterbrained a little bit. Um, when it comes to Islam, Islam created fear inside of our hearts, which gained them a lot of power. Well, we went over to Iraq, we took over Iraq, we put fear into their hearts, which gained us a lot of power. Okay? Fear inside of other people's hearts creates power. And that's one thing that I really want to focus and emphasize on is that if you create fear, you create power. All right? Now, if you have a gun, one person, if I have a gun and then another person in front of me doesn't, who has the most power? Well, I do. About the opposite end, that guy has a gun and I don't. He has the power. He has the power to wipe me away. I feel fear in my heart for being wiped away, going into the next life unprepared. Then, let's just say we both have weapons and we're pointing it at each other's heads. Who has the most power at that moment? Well, both of us. The only person who has the most power is the one that's willing to pull the trigger first. The one who looks him dead in the eye and says, "Yeah, you're dead. That's it. It's over." So, power is based in fear. And if you have enough fear inside other people's hearts, you can be able to have the most power. That's why a lot of groups in this world have had a lot of power is because they've created a lot of fear using all manner of different things, whether it be law, sexism, racism, all sorts of different stuff. If you create fear inside of another person's heart, you have control and power over them. That's why we always have to keep fighting to be able to make sure that nobody is afraid because fear is an illusion. Fear is an absolute illusion. We create the illusion inside of our hearts of what we're afraid of. And if we actually understood the fear, we wouldn't be afraid of it. If we actually understood all portions of our fears, we would stop being afraid of them. But it's a problem because we don't face our fears. We avoid it like the plague. And so therefore, since we don't face our fears, we don't look at the fear dead in the eye, we don't care. All right? We absolutely don't care. So we just keep kicking the can down the road. I don't want to look back. I want to look back at that fear. Did you want to say something? What's up? Oh, talking about being afraid of killing somebody in the moment? Yeah, I can talk about that. No, I'm just talking about fear in general, just like as a generality.
Well, the person that has the most power is the kills first. So the only thing that power is hacking.
You've got a great point.
Why would you be afraid of that? Is it law? Kill somebody?
No, there's just different fears. Different types of people will be afraid in that moment. Like people who are afraid of pretty much they don't want their conscience to be like taken over. But it's either fight or flight at that moment. So either you fight or you flight. And so is it better to just make the decision ahead of time? If I'm confronted with this type of person, am I willing to pull the trigger first? And if you hesitate at any time for any reason whatsoever, I might be taking away a life. Then that might be then that's your fear.
Yeah, you have to make a decision
beforehand when you know you're in that situation. That way you know you're going to pull the trigger, period.
You have to know that you're not going to kill for that.
You have to accept whatever consequences you will have to endure, because the fact is that it's either your life or theirs.
Is there a possibility that you go to jail?
It's a possibility that you can go to jail for many different things. It's a possibility you could go to jail for that, but most of the time the law protects you. Okay? The law will protect you. All right? If a guy has a gun to your head and you have a gun to his head, you can pull the trigger saying you are fearful of your life.
What if he has a gun to your arm?
He has a gun to my arm. You say I was still fearful for my life. He had a gun. Doesn't matter where it's pointed. It's still bodily injury. I'm fearful of my life. I'm fearful of bodily injury. I'm fearful of everything. So I don't want to die, so I'm going to kill him. So
and that's legal?
It's legal, yeah. Except for in some cases of California. California has some random weird laws for. I've heard of cases where all of a sudden a guy comes inside of a house and starts rummaging through, stealing stuff. The guy had a gun and said, "Stop right there." He thought the other guy had a gun, but it looked like he was running away at the same time. He was fearful of his life, shot him a couple of times, killed him. It was a 17-year-old kid who didn't have a gun. And they said, "Yeah, you're going to jail." Breaking and entering, fearful of his life, didn't know why this kid was in there, thought he had a gun, and he went to jail. That's. He didn't pull a gun on him because there was no real gun out there. So.
You can't kill somebody for.
No, you can't. You can. It's just that you have, inside California, you can't shoot anybody in the back.
You can kill somebody for breaking and entering in California?
But you can't shoot them in the back for some reason.
So if he was facing it?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, the guy, because they're stating that he's running away. He's fearful of his life. You're the one that has the most power. He doesn't, and therefore he's running away. But it's like,
turn around at any moment.
Yeah, exactly. What happens if he's changing positions? What happens if he's trying to get
Yeah.
cover and fire back at you. There's so many different thousands of things. It's just better to keep it clear cut, and that's it. Okay. They broke into his house. He's fearful of his life. You can shoot him. Period. And so, you know, people will. It doesn't make sense to me either. I wish it did. I really wish it did. Oh, they want more gun restrictions. There's reasons for it. They want more gun restrictions just because they want more control. Okay. Here's my belief system, and this is just a belief system. I could very well be wrong. Okay, because I need to just realize that I still have my biases. Okay. But what I believe is that there are people who want to take away the Second Amendment. Why do they want to take away the Second Amendment? Because then if the Second Amendment is taken away, they can easily manipulate and control the masses through force. All right. So they,
That?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think there are people out there who think that, but not everybody. That's not the reason why all people.
Oh, of course. That's not the reason why all of them, but I think that's why that I would rather be safe than sorry when it comes to senators and people in government. The reason for that is because let's just say they firmly believe that guns are bad. Like they firmly believe it, okay? And that they're trying to get guns taken away out of pure safety. To me, it doesn't matter. They're doing more harm than good. Okay? To me, their ignorance doesn't matter to me. Okay? Because then I have to worry about the other senators who might have what I think would be a terrible thing. Okay? A terrible idea because if they I mean think about it. They actually accomplish it and take away our weapons. If they actually fully accomplish it, take away our weapons, then all of a sudden, what do we have to protect ourselves against a government? What do we have?
Well, you mentioned in a previous channel that our freedom of speech was starting to be attacked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have freedom, and then rights to bear arms both attacked, both government.
Exactly.
The kind of government the freedom of America just downhill.
Mm-hmm. It's going downhill slightly.
Well, it's a concern that could happen. Why we discuss these.
Oh yeah, of course. You want to keep that concern up. So, what do we? I don't want to sit there and just say, "Oh, okay," to the guy who wants to take away my weapons, for all good reasons in his head. I don't want to sit there and go, "Oh, okay, he wants to take away my weapons because of all good feelings and good reasons behind it, and I trust the government will be able to take care of me." I don't want to take that risk. That's a huge risk because
People.
ex-
Not here in America, so the government can take care of us. Otherwise, we'd have otherwise we'd be living in Russia kind of thing.
a communistic, Marxist communistic, and mhm. Yeah, it's a republic. It's a Republican democracy. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we want to bear arms because we want to make sure it doesn't happen. So, what do we? It's true. We want to keep ourselves safe as much as possible. I don't think we want to be like a totally not open to the idea of certain types of control, because there's certain types of freedom of speech is that we can't say. For example, I can't threaten you. I can't threaten you
as an individual say, I'm going to kill you, that's against the law. And that's reasonable, right? Because it makes you fearful for your life. All right. So let's just say, for example, when it comes to gun laws, okay, I can understand certain types of gun laws, background checks, etc. But you know what I can't understand? I can't understand gun-free zones. I can't understand senators who want to take away our guns. Hey, if you want to take away our guns, take away your armed guards first. All right? Show me that you have the faith of the government and the police. Show me that you actually can rely on the police just as much as we need to rely on them. And if they can't do it, then what's the point? Seriously, what's the point? So, yeah, anyways, I better get back to this. Mm. I guess this is not popular today. I've only had like a couple of comments and that's it. Not really too many. I guess no one wants to comment. This happens a lot, all right? And I've noticed this when it comes to people. Yeah, I'm not saying anything wrong against you guys, but I'm just saying that, like, I've just noticed that whenever I'm just like, hey, I'm open to being wrong about something, nobody will step forward and try and present their arguments. And I think I know the reason why. It's because they don't even know their arguments themselves. They just know of a feeling that they have, and that they rely on somebody else, if you know what I mean. So, like, a lot of people just don't want to step forward. It's no big deal. Like, I don't care if you don't step forward, but it's kind of like, you know, how can I be open to something if nobody tells me?
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
what I see is that you ask.
Exactly.
That's what it boils down to. Government.
It does.
You mentioned
Yeah.
all the same thing.
It's protecting it's protecting our rights, and if we allow it, we'll just be another country that has starvation. And like I said, like every single communist country that has associated a type of communistic, socialistic, Marxist type government has never worked. Bodies stack up. The bodies stack up high. Our selfish nature is the reason why this has worked. This little social experiment has worked. All right, we're naturally selfish, but you know what? After we have been set, after our riches have been piled up, and everything like that. We're just like, huh, well, might as well give as much as I can to somebody else. And then they start giving it away and giving away and giving away. Our selfish nature is always going to be there, but when we have overabundance, we give it to everyone else. It's way better than having underabundance, because then we can't even do that. We can't even help other people. Like underabundance, how do we help out other people?
Right, yeah.
Exactly. There's overabundance than underabundance, okay? Which is better? Overabundance? Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I don't know why.
Buffer.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we've got plenty to go around. Hey guys, you want some more? We got all this extra food. We're full. Okay, here you go. Instead of being, I'm starving. Gimme, 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 gimme.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden when you're starving, people are gonna die and people are gonna kill to survive.
Well, I have a question about gun control.
Sure.
We were talking about I don't know, how do we prevent violence? Because that's the real issue, not guns.
Yeah.
Do you have some ideas on how to do that?
Well, I do have a couple of ideas. I mean, these are my own personal ideas, and I think that they would be great. No more gun-free zones. That would be a number one thing. Like, take away all gun-free zones. All right?
Right, because that's, like I said earlier, the self-defense.
Mm-hmm. So if we actually sit there and we actually say, hey, if you say gun-free zone except for concealed and carry people. So, for example, if you did say gun-free zones, but you have to be a concealed weapon person, I would welcome that. I'd welcome that with open arms. What's the difference between a cop and a good person? They're both going to shoot the bad guy.
Versus what you said, only if I would only want it if it was
yeah, because just normal carry laws, just like walking around with an AR rifle inside of a school, like right in front, low ready, all that stuff. So inside Texas, you're allowed to carry your AR rifle so long as it's in the low ready. So barrels down, that's it. You're allowed to carry it out in public wherever you want. You can carry your sidearm visible in public, okay? Inside Texas.
Ready. Barrels.
Yeah, the barrel's down, it's holstered, it's not there, okay? So I would get rid of gun-free zones and I would say concealed and carry people are more than welcome to conceal and carry.
Yeah, but you don't want the ready out as long as it's down.
I don't think that that's
necessary
because a lot of people still have the stigma for guns. Okay, so example, like you can't stop people from having a stigma. Okay, the hardest thing in the world is stopping a stigma, because once it's started, it doesn't go away. It's like Italians when it comes to mythology. They still believe that your feet carries a cold. So if you get your feet cold, all of a sudden, cold or wet, that you will catch a cold or get sick, And so that's why they're always wearing socks and shoes inside their houses. It's because of that stigma. You don't get rid of those natural stigmas. So if the stigma is that guns are bad, the last thing you want to do is to say, all right, let's make laws like Texas. Hang on, chink. I'm just going to carry my weapon everywhere. Everybody's going to sit there and be like, they all have guns, but I don't. Oh my God. This is so terrible. This is awful. Guns? They're everywhere. Y'all are carrying guns. Y'all are murderers. You're murderers. Yeah, exactly. You don't go from one extreme to another. You gotta get the stigma one thing at a time. One little thing at a time, one person at a time. In Texas, it's fine because that's the culture. That's the way it is. A person who comes from California all the way to Texas will be shocked, but they'll be integrated in eventually. Yeah. They'll eventually be integrated in. Eventually, it'll take time. but they'll eventually be integrated in, and they're good with it. They're done with it. But it takes integration. Okay? That's the whole purpose behind it. But if you're taking a look at just like gun-free zones, yeah, I would say teachers, if you get your concealed weapon, do it. Go ahead, carry inside the school. All right, you're good. Don't tell anybody that you're carrying. Don't tell your students that you're carrying. Don't tell anybody. Just, if you want to carry, you can. If you
feel like they shouldn't tell the students that they're carrying?
No, not even close.
Well, I mean, we're already making it public that gun is legal, carry guns.
Yeah, but what? It's kind of like, have you seen Futurama?
You think I see?
No, of course you don't. So, anyways, these guys are getting ready for battle, and a guy named Zap Brannigan, he's sitting there. He's just like, always remember, the key element of winning a battle is the element of surprise. And then he's like, surprise! And he hits a button, and they all fall down into the battlefield. Well, it's a funny statement, but there's a lot of truth behind it. Like, the number one thing you want to do is have the element of surprise. Okay, so you say to your students, "Hey, I'm a concealed carry person." What's the first thing a murderer is going to do? Go after the teacher that's the most threatening. Okay, if they take out the key target of teachers who are carrying, then all of a sudden he's free reign. Okay, now he's going to be a lot more hesitant. He's going to be a lot more hesitant. But if you have the element of surprise, all of a sudden, all it takes is a kid pulling out a bunch of weapons and he says, bang, 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 and starts shooting up the classroom. 1, 2, 10 teachers pull out their guns and shoot over his bow a couple of times or even hit him. What's his focus on? Not the helpless people.
But that's good. But what if he knows there's
Yeah, it could be, but they shouldn't know. They shouldn't. The students shouldn't know or care. And I would say putting it even further inside of colleges, I would say let the students conceal and carry. In colleges, absolutely. Yeah, like 18, 21, doesn't matter which one. Have them conceal and carry inside schools because let's.
college campuses,
They are.
like walking night class.
Exactly. Coming home from a night class, all that stuff. And most colleges are gun-free zones, but you know what? I ignored that completely when I was going to college just because I wanted to make sure I was safe. And if there was some girl screaming, that I can be able to help her out,
We had reports or attempted rapes, both campuses that I attended.
Mm-hmm.
And I also attended UC Santa Barbara, where the shooting was a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. UC Santa Barbara, I remember that. So, what if you're, I don't know, if you're looking at it that way, then it's a terrible thing. But when you're looking at it in the element of surprise towards a bad guy, a lot of people just don't trust other people. That's one of the biggest issues. They don't trust others. They don't trust another person. And if they don't trust another person, then it becomes a really big issue. It becomes huge to them. So how do you make it? Well, you just make the law and then just let everything balance itself out eventually. Line upon line, precept upon precept. They'll complain about it, they'll argue about it, but let the statistics say what it is, all right? Because I'm just going to be real. I'm gonna stop the stream in about 5-10 minutes, but let's just be real. Between 500,000 to 3 million people or incidences of where a gun has been brandished or said that they have a gun, or a person actually has a gun and just is feeling threatened has saved lives between 500,000 to 3 million. That's a statistic that can't be denied. All right? Compared to the 11,000 homicides and 20,000 suicides that are caused by guns. All right. So almost 35, it's like 35,000 people die per year because of guns. Well, what makes the between 500,000 and 3 million people's lives any different than the people that died? The only difference is that the people are dead while the others are alive to tell about it, but yet nobody hears their stories. Not one person hears their stories. Okay? They'll sit there and be like, they'll go to their friends and be like, oh my gosh, I was so scared in the middle of the night. I was walking down the road, and then all of a sudden this guy was walking behind me, and he was getting closer and closer. I grabbed my gun and I just sat there and held it. And then he got really close and said, hey, you need help walking? And I said, no, thanks. I've got a weapon. Walk away. And then he just bolted the other way. And it's just like that one statement possibly could have prevented a rape. Where do you hear about that in the news? Nowhere, because she didn't get raped. You don't hear those stories because they don't go up to the news stations and say, I was almost raped, but my gun saved me.
Well, they should.
They should. Of course they should. But no news story is going to take that. They'll always take tragedy over a hero story. Yeah. A good story over a tragedy. There's no such thing as a good story. Steven Crowder interviewed this guy. This is one story, and no news stations. This should have been on every news station, but no news stations took it. Okay? Huge mass shooting in Texas. Huge. This guy went into a church, took a pistol and his gun, shot up a church, killed almost 30 people, injuring 40. Okay? Church. In Texas, nobody had a weapon inside the church because they were respecting the rules of the church. Now it makes me think, okay, maybe I should keep my weapon on me inside church, you know? But even though those people died, there was a silver lining. This guy heard the shots from the church, grabbed his AR rifle, and before he even had a chance to shoot more people, this woman said, I was on my knees hiding behind, and he was walking towards me, about to shoot me. When all of a sudden, a couple of shots I heard, and I thought it was aimed at me, but instead it hit him and he started running away. A guy, an NRA member with an AR rifle, an assault rifle, an AR-15, hit him a couple of times. The guy looked at him, turned around, ran off, hopped into his truck, and the guy with the AR rifle was hunting him down.
Amazing. Did he have training? What did you say?
The NRA, so National Rifle Association. So
did he have training?
He had training with his rifle several times, and so combat training, everything like that. When you finally are licensed with a rifle and everything like that, you pretty much get how it works, and it's pretty.
Had the confidence going after that guy.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. It was a no question in his mind. He hears shots being fired. He grabbed his gun and saw where he was being fired and shot at the person. That was. Yeah, like I'm trained to that degree. I've been in the military. I am trained.
What about
Absolutely. It's all depending on your mindset. That's all. That's the only difference between anybody who has a gun who doesn't and who doesn't. So
that's really cool.
So anyways, he goes after him and he gets in his truck and fires at him a couple of times. He's firing back, and then all of a sudden the truck finally stops and slows down. and he points his gun out at him, and the guy's still breathing, he's still moving, and everything like that. And the police get there, and the police are just like, put the weapon down. And he's like, okay. It's like, not you, you idiot. Point that weapon at him. Oh, okay. and he picks up his rifle. He's just like, okay. He points at him, and the police finally get there, and the guy's dead. Okay. He bled out and died. But he saved a couple of lives, you know? There's 30 lives lost, but one guy with a gun saved a few. It could have been worse. It could have been 50. It could have been 100. And he could have kept going. Instead, he saved a couple more lives because he was a good guy with a gun. And where was this on the news? Nowhere.
That should have been on all over the place because it's a major point for against gun control.
Yeah.
Why we should have the right to bear arms.
Exactly. Nobody will put it online. Why?
It's a great argument where how mass shooting is prevented just by being able to be various.
Exactly. It's the best argument. That's why they'll never show you. They want their zealots. They want their people to be blindfolded, to never understand these arguments. The whole reason I'm doing this is because I want people to understand the argument. I want them to understand, but nobody wants to. Nobody wants.
What about all you out there that believe that we shouldn't have guns?
They don't. That's the thing. It's exactly the way Steven Crowder put it a long time ago. It's just like there will be nobody who will pop up for hours on end. You know, I'll probably be sitting here for like 6 hours before somebody will pop into the chat and actually say something. Nobody will pop in. And so I'm thinking that I need to do other things. Yeah, he did that. What he did was he puts on a booth and he puts it inside of a college campus. And then he'll sit it down and then he'll write on there, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro free speech. I'm against hate speech. But I'm open to being wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Okay? Change my mind. Okay?
And he has a booth?
Yeah.
Is he doing live?
Yeah, he's doing a live thing. And he says, yep. And he says sometimes it'll take 3 hours before somebody has the confidence. But once somebody sits down and has that confidence, that's when everybody starts coming in and surrounding and saying their opinion and yelling their opinion. Okay? But nobody has the confidence to sit down at first.
Yeah, but nobody's on camera.
Yeah, it's a chat. I thought it would be a lot easier, but a lot of people are not getting online. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. What I think I'll do is I might want to have two separate opinions, you know, get you on camera one time or another. And that way we can just discuss things, you know, you and me just discussing life in general. And exactly. I can make it so that I put a chair in the back. I can put chairs right here and then post the camera right there. And then we just discuss about everything. So maybe I might end up doing something like that where we'll just put the camera, put a microphone in the middle, call it good. That's a good idea. But anyways, for now, I'm just going to keep to doing this. I want to do this every single day at the same time.
Well, thank you for letting me be part of the discussion today.
Yeah, no problem. If you want to be a part of it, you can. It's no worries. I don't mind having people being a part of the discussion. So, not very many people today, which is fine. It's a Saturday. People are out and about. All right. I got to get it to where I'm either doing it roughly around 4 o'clock-ish or when people are at work.
Oh, this later?
Yeah, they'll see it later. They'll see it later. So anyways, it's coming close to that time. I'm gonna call it good. If you guys tuned in for a little bit, appreciate you tuning in. But we'll see. We'll see if this is even worth my time. I like doing this, so I think I'm gonna do it every day. I want to do this every day. Just leave an open chat and see if anybody will actually challenge me on these things. I want to challenge. I want to know if I'm wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I will say that again and again. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I am a terrible person. And I'll listen to your arguments. I will listen to every single one. And I will read them out loud. You guys really want my challenge? Try it, okay? We'll see you guys next time.